Thank you so much, Prashad. Thank you for having us. I mean, we love talking about making and answering questions and inspiring people. So, in that spirit, let me share our screen and we'll jump right in.
And we do invite all of you to interrupt us if you have any questions. We'll try to not go too fast.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, that's the funnest part for any user group meeting for us is interacting with folks. So if you have questions, I think Prasad, you said this is an open mic, so you can unmute yourself and feel free to ask a question or interrupt. We'll try not to go too fast through things because we get excited, or certainly I do, and I start talking and talking. But slow us down, interrupt, ask questions. We want to stay engaged with you throughout the presentation. Let me just hide some of these controls. Why is that? It's called Our Next Make. In fact, I'll show you the next slide so you can see the spelling, just in case. There we go. So yeah. In fact, let's jump right into the presentation. So, what we want to talk to you about today is how we sort of got started with this idea of creating a YouTube channel. And then we'll jump into the sort of meat of the presentation, which is talking about Solidworks for Makers. And all the things it comes with, how we use it, and we'll show you a bunch of the projects that we made, and hopefully that will inspire you too. We of course should have time at the end for an open discussion, but as we said, we'd love to hear your questions and comments throughout. So feel free to unmic and jump right in. So with that, I'll let Chinloo kind of talk a bit about the crazy idea.
Yeah, so thank you everyone for joining. So the two of us are both engineers, and we joined Solidworks many, many years ago, almost 2 decades. But throughout our time together, we've always, even before we met each other, we've always been makers in our heart. And we would always use what we're familiar with to help us make things. And we always do Solidworks, the stuff that we designed. But recently, I think it was summer of 2021, Makers was released. And we saw the opportunity to use Makers, the Solidworks for Makers package, to show everyone what you could do, try to inspire current users, new generations of users on how to just bring their ideas from mind to physical objects. So we pitched this idea to our CEO and our managers, and before we could finish the pitch, he said, let's do it. So we went on this crazy adventure. So one of the most interesting effort we had to figure out was how to showcase our work. So as you guys all know, there's so many platforms out there. There's YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, even more beyond this. And we had to really decide the scope that we wanted to bring our content to. So we did quite a bit of research on where we could get demographic of people that we don't normally speak to. What I mean by that is that as R&D employees, we speak to corporate commercial customers quite often. We don't get to talk to garage makers or after work tinkerers and hobbyists. So we knew that a lot of those people existed in YouTube, or at least they either watch or were always inspired by it. We knew that there was a new generation of people who are just interested in this kind of stuff in TikTok and Instagram, and also just people who just love to get inspired in Facebook. So those were the 4 platforms we wanted to focus on. And since we went there, we've really been studying the demographics and the analytics of the folks that are there to understand what kind of projects would excite them. So it took a while.
Yeah, I would add that this was probably the bigger hurdle in the beginning, right? We know how to use SolidWorks very well. We're good at making things, but like how to record videos and edit videos and publish them on a schedule.
Yeah, luckily I've had some experience, but having to remember that from 20-something years ago when I got a degree in multimedia, it was really fun to rethink. But I forgot to mention one of the hardest things, just like when you have a baby. I don't know how many of you guys have had babies, but coming up with a name.
Picking the name for this thing.
I mean, like, these things are difficult because you have to find something that's unique on all of these platforms. So we had a list, I would say maybe like 50 names.
In fact, in fact, the title of this presentation, "A Year in the Making," was kind of one of our first ideas because we weren't sure if we were going to do this for more than a year. And anyway, so we thought it would be fun, but that also didn't.
It was actually a song.
There was a song that inspired it too. So all right, let's jump into the actual meat of the presentation. So that's sort of just a little quick background of how we got started. Let's talk about SolidWorks for Makers. And first is, what exactly is it? For those of you that don't know, it's a software package that's nothing short of amazing, if I could be honest, because not only does it come with SolidWorks that we all know and I assume all of us use in our daily lives, it's actually SolidWorks Professional, and it's the 3D Experience version, so it's actually connected to the platform. So you get all kinds of benefits beyond just the CAD that you're used to. In addition, it comes with 2 of the X apps that work in a browser, nothing to install. You just fire up any browser and get started. So that's X Design and X Shape, parametric modeling, and sub-D sort of sculptural modeling. It comes with the platform, as I was saying. So there's a ton of stuff that actually shows up when you log into the 3D Experience platform. We'll focus on a couple of them today that we use most. So you can see them listed here. It's built-in data management. So if you've ever had an idea and you're like, I might want to try something else, but not ruin, what I'm doing. So you can create either a branch or a version and actually manage your data. It's all built right in. It comes with CNC toolpath software, as well as sort of a little bit of a CAD admin role, because when you buy a maker's license, you get your own sort of, we call it a tenant. It's your own company, and you can manage it. You can see how much data you're using, assign licenses. Chinloo and I are 2 employees on our maker tenant, so I can take her license away if she's misbehaving. So yeah, so it's a great way to practice. If you're a CAD admin, practice sort of what the platform CAD admin looks like. But moving on, when it comes with so much, the question is, how do you choose which software to use for which project? And so I want to jump in and talk a little bit about that. Sometimes the software that we're going to choose, it kind of chooses itself. So this is a chicken coop garden that we built for my father last year. And we knew it was going to be a bunch of structural wood, 2x4s, 4x4s. And so weldments immediately sprung to mind. And because SolidWorks has weldments and X Design doesn't have weldments, we chose SolidWorks because it was the most appropriate tool for the job. And what's cool about weldments is, if you haven't used it before, is it will let you build geometry like this super fast. But then, of course, it has the downstream benefits of giving you cut lists and making the drawings and all this other stuff. So we actually packed the car up with our tools, drove 20 hours in the to visit my parents, and then worked in their backyard with all cutting up wood and building a chicken coop. So having these drawings on hand and then being able to have the cut list so we can go order the stuff at the home center was a lifesaver. Another example of where the software sort of chose itself was this project where we built a standing adjustable desk. So we were working at home quite a bit last year, and we wanted to build something out of cardboard or corrugated board. So although corrugated board folds differently than sheet metal, we knew that we could get pretty darn close to a flat pattern if we use SolidWorks sheet metal. So we used, we're going to black, yeah, we used SolidWorks sheet metal to flatten out the corrugated boards. And I don't know if you've ever been immortalized in CAD before, but there we are, Chinloo and me, standing inside of SolidWorks. Anyway, so we built this adjustable desk system so we can bring our laptops or our iPads or whatever up to the appropriate height. And again, that was a choice for SolidWorks. One last case, this is our can rack. We go through a lot of cans of beans in our house. That's our favorite form of protein these days. And so because I was going to use tab and slot quite a bit to hold these pieces together, SolidWorks has a great tab and slot command, so we went right to it. We're very much proponents of choosing the right software to get the job done. And so these are 3 examples of where SolidWorks was the go-to choice.
Yeah, so in some of our projects where we knew we wanted to incorporate organic shapes, for example, here, what you see on the right is actually a little hippopotamus rest for chopsticks or paintbrushes. On the left was this fun rabbit gift card holder. And that was something that I wanted to explore if we could 3D print directly. And having X-Shape with the subdivision modeling engine, I was able to do a lot of just clay-like pushing and pulling of the pieces and get close to what I was looking for. And it was very enjoyable. I'm not an expert in any way, but being able to get something in my head, as you can see, I sketched a few things out and still get all of the connections and mechanisms. That the rabbit on the left actually spins and has multiple movement. I think we had little dimples in there to hold all the pieces, and it was really nice to hop between X-Shape and X-Design, or even stay within X-Shape to do all of the Boolean work that I needed to before I printed.
Was there, I thought I heard somebody maybe
Was
trying
there
to
a
come online.
question?
Was there a question? We can pause anytime.
No.
No? Okay, all right. Again, don't be bashful.
Yeah. So also within the Makers offering, we have the web apps, as we mentioned before, with the X-Shape as being one of the modeling tools. X-Design is also one, and we often rely on the ability to access the software on a mobile device. It could be content that was created in Solidworks and placed in the platform. It could be just direct ideation, as you can see on the phone on the left, upper left. We even brainstorm on 3D whiteboard together on the go. I've definitely sketched down ideas while I was on the couch watching TV. Sal's brought his phone to the shop when he starts working with some of his woodworking tools. So it's just very convenient to have all of the content online, but also being able to tap into the CAD creation aspect with browser-based CAD tools. So this is some examples from some of the videos we've made.
Yeah, in fact, that photo right in the bottom center, that's us in Florida. So, you know, one of the southernmost states of America, in the summer, trying to build a chicken coop. So, and that's just my parents' garage, and we're getting the dimensions we need to build the project. So
no hauling pieces of paper. We just kind of pulled out a device and just talked about it for the day and went on. Yeah. And throughout, no, this is not representing the latest stuff, but you'll get a taste when you go to our channel. Throughout all of our projects, we do our best to highlight different types of software. So we don't only focus primarily on Solidworks versus the X apps, as you can see with the red and the blue bubbles. But we also look at some of the free products that would be available for anyone to use, like the Make by Me, Home by Me products, as well as apps for kids. And for us, it's definitely software out there that is offered by Dassault Systèmes that everyone should play with. They have their own specialty as well.
Yeah, so the variety that we try and it's just an extra criteria for us is, you know, we want to show a variety of software as well as building techniques. So these are the three other applications that we use, and as Chinloo said, it's because we feel like if it comes with Makers or it's free from Dassault, that's fair game for us to show on the channel. And so these are three products. If you haven't heard of them before, we're going to give you a quick glimpse into each one right now. So Home by Me is actually a free online tool that you can, runs in a browser, and you can basically build, it's meant to build your home, lay out your home design, but any sort of building. What you just saw there was a bunk bed that I designed for our son. Our son was in college and he was moving out of the campus dorms and into an apartment, and he was sharing a very small bedroom with another friend. And so he's like, Dad, we really need a bunk bed. And so I designed it in X-Design, but then to see how it would look in his bedroom, he gave me the dimensions, and in Home by Me, I was able to quickly model the room, put the bed in the room, and feel what it would look like, before we ever actually cut anything. So Home by Me is just that next really cool level. You can use it all by itself and just use it to design a home, or you can use it as we did to bring X-Design geometry or X-Shape, and even SolidWorks, so it doesn't matter. You can push the data up into Home by Me. What's even more cool these days is X-Design, all the X apps have the ability to pull Home by Me data back into X-Design. So if you want to actually model your bunk bed while you're in your bedroom, you can actually pull that model into XDesign and continue to design. So it's really a cool blend of the two technologies. So that's Home by Me.
And for me, one of our projects was to update our mailboxes. You can see here in the video on the right, we get a lot of snow here. So our mailboxes tend to get demolished by the annual snow plow. And for us to really quickly capture some ideas on a new design, I leveraged Make by Me. Make by Me is this free online tool that allows you to kind of pull your creation together, but using traditional lumber, standard lumber pieces that you would actually pick up at a home center. And so being able to just go out there as if I'm in the shop pulling some expensive pieces of lumber together, I could do this virtually and just snap pieces of wood together and understand how much I would need, how it looks. It comes with a cut list and plenty of information that allows me to then communicate with Sal about, is this a design that we want to work with? And just, I think we built like 3 different variations in Make by Me before we decided that this is the one we wanted to go with. So a very quick tool to ideate, but also practical to actually bring it to fabrication state. And for apps for kids, I know the name sounds like it's for children to play with. I'm sure, well, I'm going to assume you guys have seen this before, but if you haven't, it is like this digital clay or Play-Doh tool that kids can go in there and just like mush together and play. And I had fun in one of my exercises designing this endangered species of elephant from Asia. And Sal was inspired by seeing this elephant and thought we could probably do something more with it and make it into a gift for our nephew. So he was able to go, well, I was able to export the elephant out, or I think you exported it. Anyway, you could share your creation on the gallery, and I think he might have pulled it from there. But by doing so, you can bring the mesh object over into Solidworks, XDesign, either of the CAD tools, and he was able to build all of the appropriate components to then bring it to reality. He'll go deeper into that, but also on the right, even though it's a tool for kids to play with, you could see that with a very quick few pulls and push of the digital clay, I was able to also create snowflakes and coasters and all sorts of stuff. So this is not a tool just for kids. It's all sorts of folks who's never been introduced to CAD through traditional engineering skills, but it's fun, not very intimidating to use, and you can also export to 3D printing. So that's what that's on the screen.
Yeah, the technology in apps for kids is very similar subdivisional modeling as you find in Xshape. Yeah. So if anyone's like, I want to test drive something right tomorrow, today, you can go to apps for kids and play with sub-D technology, which is really cool. Yeah, and as Chinloo said, that ecosystem is really meant for sort of to stay within itself for kids, but there's lots of practical uses. And the fact that SolidWorks has mesh modeling built into it these days was like, that was the light that went off when Chinloo made the elephant. I'm like, oh, we got to do something with this. And to bring it in as an STL into SolidWorks and then continue to slice and dice it and add the caricature. That was awesome. So I love that project.
And it's a great way if you have children in your life and you want to engage them in the whole making process. This is a great way for them to input that 3-dimensional content and for you to then carry it on into something practical. But it's definitely not as intimidating as a 4-year-old playing with SolidWorks.
So excuse me, that bit was mostly about the software and the designing of it. Now we have to actually get into more of the making. So I'll set the stage. Sorry, I should have set the stage. One more sentence. So above we talked about wanting to show a variety of software that to inspire people to design things. In the same vein, we like to show a wide variety of ways to make things, right? Because you can make things with a pair of scissors, you can make things with a laser cutter, and everything in between. We want to show people that variety. So this is one example of that.
Yeah, so we created this thing called Shut the Box. It's actually a game. But before we even went down this path of creating a game, we were actually asked to celebrate the accomplishments of these college students who had won a competition with NASA, and they came to visit our campus. And we thought, you know, it'd be nice to just give them a commemorative plaque, but wouldn't it be even more cool if we could let them put together their own award, and at the same time, it is also something that they can always play with afterwards. So we decided to incorporate a game. It's called Shut the Box. It's this single player, multiplayer experience where you're throwing dice to see if you can capture the different digits that are now these little fingers on the mechanism. And the goal of the game is to, every time you throw the dice down, you're able to close down the pins that can either represent the number you rolled or in combination combine to meet, you know, the number that is on the dice. And with this kind of concept, we wanted to also bring in all the different elements of fabrication that we can get from the 3D Experience Lab. It's a fab lab at our office. And we have a laser cutter, we have electronics corner, we have a CNC. So we wanted to leverage all of those to represent this trophy, I guess. And so we got to play with light piping, engraving on acrylic, got to solder some wires, you saw earlier was kind of fast, and just really work with beautiful wood. And ultimately, if you watch the video on our channel, you'll see the students actually putting this together with some instructions, and they were very, very engaged and happy, and it was really fun to see them do that. And they were all college students. It's not like they're little kids, and they look like they were little kids when they were playing with it. But it was fun to kind of see afterwards they were playing this game with their partners as they put this together. So.
Right. Actually, they're from Kansas, right? Wichita, Kansas. So yeah. out in your neck of the woods, Todd.
Yeah, I don't remember. You want to talk about this? Yeah.
Oh, this is for me to talk about? All right, so yes. So another example of a project where, again, we tried to show different manufacturing techniques. So Chinloo found this material. It's called diatomite. She was tired of our towels for the shower. Every time we get out of the shower, the floor mat, yeah, they're like, you know, they get gross. So this is like a super absorbent, but then super evaporative material. And you know, when I saw it, it came with these little coasters. I'm like, we got to do something with that. So I had always wanted to mess around with carving stone. So that's what we did. We found a rock outside. I used my tile saw to cut it a flat bottom. And then, you know, it was cool because I got to marry the digital and the tactile. Like, you know, you go from like carving stone to scanning the stone and then into CAD and then CNC. It was just such a dichotomy of like, you know, like I felt like a Neanderthal, and I felt like a space person. You know, like, it was a really cool and fun project. And then, you know, it came together so nicely. It's simple. I think it's elegant, and it's this little like Zen art thing. You can go up and draw something, and then.
I would also want to add that we also did a little bit of green design here, because the little brush on the right was this old detailing brush that I had laying around. It had been used so much, it was basically falling apart.
The paint was falling off of it.
Yeah, and the tail end of the brush was chipped off. So we salvaged it and cleaned it up, and it fit perfectly. I mean, we had to cut it off a little bit, but it was really
I think we show that in the video, right?
Yeah,
in the full-length video, yeah, we show me scraping the paint off and fixing that up.
Yeah.
And so these are the some of the most recent projects we made. We actually made these for 3D Experience World, and we brought them to the event. They're puzzle boxes, and these are just other examples of combining sort of traditional, you know, get in your garage and do stuff with wood to you know, 3D printing and vinyl cutting and all this other stuff. And so I'm not going to go into the details of how they work, but they were actually inspired by this box that we made almost a year ago at this point, probably over a year ago at this point. It's a monster box. It was a puzzle box that we made for our niece. She was turning 9 or something, and And it's just, it's a place for her to put her little treasures and then lock it up. And the eyeballs of the monster are the combination. So you can turn it and lock the box.
She also has five siblings, so
Yeah,
she needed to hide her
She's got to
stuff.
hide her stuff from her siblings. This, this is it in SolidWorks. So it's pretty standard assembly. What's cool about it is the mechanism. So let me show you the animator. So we'll talk more about how we use SolidWorks Animator in the future, but this is sort of how the box opens. You slide the nose backwards, and that unlocks the actual box. You'll get a closer view of there's a little tab that goes inside those two front teeth in the bottom. And then the knobs themselves are actually how you lock it. So if you slide the nose forward, that engages the tab in the front. And then the knobs turn. You see that little black metal pin. Right now it's able to slide through a slot in the knobs, but when you turn the knobs, then it can't slide anymore. And what's really cool about the knobs, it's a two-piece design. And so you can actually take the two pieces apart and re-index that bottom piece into the knob and basically change the combination at will. So that was a really fun thing to come up with, to figure out and to troubleshoot, because the tolerances when you're working with 3D printing are pretty good, but when you're working with wood, sometimes your drill's not in the right spot. So that was a really fun project, and using SolidWorks in this case to troubleshoot and then also to communicate like I'm doing with you here. We include a lot of videos like this in our YouTube channel because we're finding that it's a real benefit to help people understand.
Yeah, in this example, we used SolidWorks to illustrate how the predator protection fencing was going in for our chicken coop design. And we just naturally thought this way and communicated to each other this way. But when we shared this as part of the reel or the video on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, it went viral. It was interesting that we had more than 1 million views on TikTok, was it, or Instagram, where people were just commenting and being very inspired or blown away by the fact that I think one of the comments was like, dude was ready with a 3D model to explain this. And it really excited people about really understanding what we were trying to say and engaged folks and allow them to be able to ask questions, both about the software, but also about like the approach. We went with how we wanted to design. In fact, this is actually illustrating a solution that we didn't take. We had done it differently. And this was us saying, hey, next time when we do this, we would design it this way and fold it over, overlap, make it even stronger. So it was appreciated in many forms, but more of the story is that we didn't just use CAD to show or to help us build something, but we were using it to show other people how it was working and how they should build it. So.
Yeah, I think you probably all know that CAD is a great communication tool in your companies and your businesses, but it's great for just sort of anyone to understand. Jimmy, was that you about to come online? I thought I saw your name. Yeah. Oh no, I modeled that. That was just I think I did an extrude and then a pattern of the body and then another couple of extrudes and it was done. All of say that again. Yeah.
I don't think so.
I don't think so because I can go back and double check the model. I think I initially went that route, thinking about that, but then it was starting to become a performance issue with so many bodies, if I remember. I don't recall exactly. What I will tell you, we share. Is this model shared?
I don't remember.
The overwhelming majority of our models we do share, and we'll show you where you can get them in a minute. This one we may not share. Yeah, we may not have shared.
Yeah, I understand why Jimmy's asking that question because you're folding it down.
Yeah.
So maybe you did do it in sheet metal. You don't remember? It's been a while since we did this.
Yeah, because I mean, let's look at it closely. I don't remember if that would be a very natural thing to think about it as sheet metal, to make a cut of the rectangle, pattern it out, and then just fold it. And I either did that, Jimmy, or I went with a body and then just two configuration kind of thing. We'll dig into it towards the end. How about that?
Yeah, we have
I'm sure
time.
there'll
We
be time.
can pull it up.
Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's another illustration of us using CAD to explain how something works. We made a few aquaponic systems in our house, and it was an opportunity to explain to people a design that we had modified from what we saw on YouTube, and 3D printed all of the components. And Sal went and used Animator again to kind of, and this one was sophisticated. I don't know if you want to talk about it. It was very sophisticated with the water.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So the animation you're seeing on the right is probably the most complex animation I've ever made with SolidWorks, because the idea is that you can push an assembly cut. You can animate the movement of an assembly cut, and that's how I sort of animate the section views. And but I had to do that, animate the section view, then animate the rising of the water, and then the lowering of some of it. Like, oh, there's like 3 in there. It's just crazy because the way the siphon works is, the whole level outside fills up, then it overflows, then it drains. So it was some work, but it just goes to show that you can do that level of sort of interesting animation with SolidWorks.
And I was gonna say, again, this drew some attention. It's almost like you don't necessarily have to use makers to show people what kind of physical object you've made. If you just even use it to explain how things work, you could easily get the kind of reception and engagement that you would like, to help people understand. If they still wanted to do it physically on their own without CAD, at least now they've seen how it works and they can understand how to create it with the tools that they have access to. So, did you want to talk more about it?
No, we can talk about aquaponics all day long. For those of you who don't know what aquaponics is, it's where you sort of try and build this balanced ecosystem between fish and plants. And so the fish do their thing and they make their waste and it gets pumped up into the plant bed, and then the plants feed off that nutrients, they clean the water, and it's this nice closed cycle. So we've been experimenting with that quite a bit, because it's fun to think that can exist.
Most often the easy route is to just have the water travel through the medium where the plants are and just go right out continuously. But the siphoning, which works much like similar to like a flushing of the toilet, but it fills up a certain amount, and then it hits a threshold, and then it flushes everything out of that reservoir. And the benefit for aquaponics is that when you flush everything out, you give the roots some airtime, which they need to feed the microbes, to do what they need to do to survive. So having this kind of very quick ebb and flow of the water is actually better for the plants. That's why we spend so much time on the siphon.
So we built all this stuff, we make all this data, and we have to keep it all organized. And so that's where the platform and stuff comes in. Now there's a bunch of images on the screen for you to look at. Let me take you into SolidWorks to show you some more details. This, as we said, is 3D Experience SolidWorks Professional. And because it's 3D Experience SolidWorks, all of the things that you need to work with the platform are built right in. So number one, you'll see my little Lego icon here. I'm logged in as me. So first of all, you're logged into SolidWorks, which you wouldn't have been doing in the past. From here, you can actually work offline if you need to do that. But I often stay connected because I have got a nice, reliable system. So I'm connected to 3D Experience platform. But everything I do is the exact same thing as I would do if this was just regular SolidWorks. I'm creating new files on my local hard drive. I'm saving them to my local hard drive, and only who's drawing? What do we got? So only when I decide I want to push them up to the platform do I do that. Now, some other things that in the display pane of the feature manager, you'll notice there's a new tab now. Typically, you just see this where you can change your colors, your hide show states, and so on. But there's a built-in all the data related information. So I can see all these green keys means that I have all of these things locked. So Chinloo, she could open it, she could edit it, but she couldn't save it back to the platform. This one's not locked. You can see the current revision, the fact that it's the latest revision. So all real at your fingertips glance about what's going on in the platform. On the right-hand side in the task pane, I have, let me move this thing for me. I have an even more detailed view of all the stuff in this assembly. So you can see that the top level has been changed in this session, so I was modifying it. It hasn't been saved back to the platform, but everything else is in line with what's on my machine is the same as what's on the platform. So right inside of SolidWorks, you have a lot of capability to keep things organized. But beyond the CAD, because we build way more, well, not way more, but we may build maybe as much non-CAD data as we do CAD data. So I'll let Chinloo talk about some of these other things.
Yeah, so beyond the file management or content management on the CAD side of things, you could also manage other things like ideas and documentation, all within the 3D Swim app that's part of the offering. And one of the ways we leverage 3D Swim is there's an idea funnel that can be used. Let me just show you everything in context. So we have the ability on our tenant to create as many communities as we like. We actually have a community called Projects where we collect all of our ideas, and we come up with a ton of ideas constantly every single day. And this is a great way to manage it. It has ways for you to bring the ideas forward. If not, it just kind of sits in the parking lot until you're ready to do so. We actually have quite a few that we've accomplished, brought into reality and made into an episode. And you can filter all of these ideas in this idea funnel just by going in and clicking on any of these sections. And what's really great about it is you could also filter through them, not just by the segments of the idea funnel, but also through our search tools and tags. A way to help us manage the tags and a way to filter things is, for example, if I wanted to see like all of the small builds, I can actually select them, and then everything is, as you can see, is filtered that way. And
I should point out that the idea funnel itself, we crafted, right? The
Yeah.
idea funnel is a thing, but you could we created this many phases.
right.
If you only wanted 2 phases of like
Right.
done and not done, you know.
Yeah, you can customize this exactly
yeah.
quite a bit. So you can customize it by color, by how many segments of the journey your idea needs to go through. So this is completely customized for us. That's why you see film, make, produce, release. That makes sense for us. So to maintain this kind of consistency on every single idea, we create an idea template, so that each time we have we wake up from a dream, it's like, I have another idea. We pull out our phone, whatever's next to us, log in here, and then grab the idea funnel and fill out everything. And in the idea, you can actually see some of the preset tags that you can remove and whatnot. So
yeah, makes it really easy for us to just fill out a couple key fields, delete some stuff out of here that we don't think is appropriate, and then
it will automatically, yeah. Good. Yep. So let me get back to where we were before. Another way of using 3D Swim to help us organize some of our production and idea and our projects is actually how we manage our episodes, like titles to them, the voiceover scripts, things like that. And as you can see here, between the different communities, we've created a stories and script area. And you'll see that, within each of these, and this is our recent one that we went out, it has also a template that we fill out. And in it, we captured the metadata, tags that we want to use for promoting and linking. We even have a discount code that we promote in each of our videos that we include. So it helps us really to organize our thoughts. You can see actually the way the wikis are set up in 3D Swim is that it's like a tree structure. So if I needed to jump back and look at an old episode, I can just very quickly hop over, and then we're able to follow through. And every wiki page can not only capture comments from each other, but also there's a revision tool, which we actually don't use very much because it's just the two of us. But if you imagine you have a team of, 5 people, and everyone has their fingers on this document, and you want to make sure that changes are tracked. Wiki pages allow you to track those changes with revisions, and you can, much like, I don't know how many of you guys are programmers, but much like you compare codes when you merge them, there's a way to filter. It'll show you like green lines are what's added and red lines are what's removed. So you can quickly decide whether or not you need to back revision or keep the new one. And so these are very powerful tools.
I was going to point out that, you know, this wiki itself, you know, we're using it as makers to do what's appropriate for us, but we know even within the walls of SolidWorks, our R&D teams use this very same swim wiki to write our specifications. So as we design functionality, we're writing it here and our developers are reading it here, they're adding comments. It's a really great sort of built-in powerful, you can, you know, learn to take it for granted really fast because it's just natural to use and it adds a lot of value.
And is that everything stored online, so you can access this anywhere at any time, honestly, to make those changes. So that's another powerful element. Anywhere that has internet access. I had to kind of caveat that. Okay, and then am I talking to you? Okay.
You want me to say something?
Okay.
Well, yeah, so I mean, we still, you know, with all this technology at our fingertips, we still sort of do things that are tactile. And this is just an example. We have a whiteboard it's actually in our dining room. So, and it's just, we keep it there because sometimes it's just better to like visualize and move pieces of puzzles around and sort of figure out how the heck are we going to get this done this week? Because there's plenty of weeks like that. We're like, oh my God, we're going to do this. And so we do this as well, but we always, at the end of a week, we digitize, we take a photo of what's on the wall and we put it into those swim communities. In fact,
at the beginning of the week.
So when do we do it?
Clearly he's not the one organizing. So we plan always a week ahead. Well, we try to plan longer than that, but we plan for the week coming up. So yeah, like Sal said, this is a very tactile, quick way of us standing in front and just negotiating home stuff versus work stuff. But it also allows us to then, once things are fairly baked, bring it onto the dashboard.
I will say so, you know, I always jab on our colleagues because the platform itself, again, this is not for makers, the platform itself has tools for this kind of stuff. There's Project Planner, there's Lean Board. There's so many applications that you could have. Yeah, in the professional realm, they just don't come with makers. So we always like to be like, hey, why don't you add that to makers?
So because we have the professional tool at work, I was used to planning that way, but we don't have that really. So let me show you what we do have within what you get for makers. Can I change this?
Yes. So, I mean, what you're looking at, even though it says it's expired due to inactivity, if you walk away from a web-based app for a while, it'll time out, but you can click a button.
So Sal was modeling.
Yeah, so what you're seeing here is the dashboard that I created to do my CAD work, my designing. But Chinloo's about to show you another dashboard.
I created a planning dashboard, even though we both called it our next make. Right. We should probably name this better. But the planning dashboard is actually, let me just backtrack a little bit.
What is a dashboard?
So you can create as many dashboards as you want when it comes to the platform. Dashboards are, I mean, it's called a dashboard similar. It's supposed to mimic like the idea of like when you're in a car and you can see the odometer, the I don't know, like the channels you're listening to, and anything you want that has to do with the car is on your dashboard. So this is a customizable dashboard of your digital content on the platform, and you can create all the different variations. And when you do so, you can also customize however many tabs you want. And on each tab, we call these things widgets. I don't know if you can see the blue highlight. The widget here that houses our banner is called a 3D Play widget. There's a quick links widget here that can capture a bunch of our special links to all of our channels. So you can place it however you like. Actually, you didn't create this, so you don't, there's a ability to, because this is Sal's account, he doesn't have authoring tools, but you could actually fit everything to size. You can move things around. I apparently didn't give him permission to do anything. But each tab can house different components. Like here we have 2 3D Play components, and collaborative task component that allows you to do like your own personal to-do list. Sal usually uses Post-it notes. He apparently does nothing. Oh,
What happened?
I don't know what you're doing.
Oh, I'm searching. I'm so dumb.
Okay.
No, I want I want to show how easy it was
Oh,
to create
yeah,
a
to
tab.
add, okay.
So yes, if you want to create a task for yourself, you just you hit the plus up button, and again, you can give it a title. You can put due dates on it, assign it to people.
Yeah, it's a nice like compound kind of thing. As
Yeah.
you do it, you just kind of drag things across, and
Sorry,
it's
I couldn't help.
it's very satisfying as you drag it into the complete stage, and you know your to-do list gets smaller over time. So it comes with your maker offering. And yeah, you cannot actually here's our old school to new school. We bring some of those agreed upon images in, and then we start modifying and putting it out into digital form. This is one that I'm particularly very proud of. Sal doesn't use it as much as I wish he does. Is a way for us to weekly review and share content. So I've put in even though 3D Swim can be open on its own, just like we have in this tab of the browser, you can also put it as a widget on your dashboard. And in doing so, I every week I would lock it to the wiki that has the script for that week's episode. And you can do a lot of that just within the preferences. So you can actually it can recognize and say, hey, do you want to lock it in or save the current one that you're viewing as the one that will always load every time you refresh this page? I'm gonna cancel out of this because it's already set. Same thing here. This is 3D Drive. It's another widget that we use. This is actually the shared drive that we've been talking about, how we share content. And if
we'll get into that.
Yeah, Sal's gonna get into that. But we do share, like I have thumbnails here for him to review. There's CAD that we share back and forth to edit into the video. Sometimes I have comps that we review here. And this is really a way to always make the week's episode front of mind, and this is what we're focusing on. You don't have to worry about hunting for it. Everything is, again, similarly, you can pin it so it always refreshes to that week's content. So let's go back to our talk.
Yeah, so as Chinloo was saying, we use the platform for a lot of things, and collaboration is certainly one of them. It's, we have to collaborate with one another for sure, but there's also projects where we have to collaborate with people that aren't us. So we use conversations in the platform. In Swim, you can have conversations, and it's actually, Todd and I, in fact, have a conversation on Swim to talk about projects, and you can have conversations with people all over the world, not just within your tenant. So these are some examples. When we did a project for my brother, he has a garden shed in his backyard, and he wanted to transform it into like a work at home office. So he doesn't use Solidworks. He doesn't have a license of anything, but I still was able to have a conversation with him because he uses email to create a free account, and we could then have a conversation. So I shared 3D models with him. I said, what do you think about this? It was a great back and forth to collaborate before we ever drove to my brother's house with our tools and worked in the rain to try and build an office for him. So
to clarify though, these are on 2 different tenants.
That's true. Yeah.
So you wouldn't be able to communicate with someone privately on your tenants on these conversations. The conversation we had with Sal's brother was actually on the public tenant, which everyone can access. You don't even need a maker's account. It's a free account, and that's where you can all meet, similar to like I can't think of anything right now. Google Chat.
There you go. So conversations are one way that we collaborate. 3D whiteboard is another.
Yeah, so 3D whiteboard is basically what it sounds like. It's a whiteboard, infinite size, but you can draw on it, but you can also attach 3D models on it. That's why it's 3D whiteboard, not just whiteboard. And you can also even, what you saw earlier here, you can even attach animated GIFs, and yeah, like in the upper right hand corner, there's no mouse, where we have a quick concept that I pulled together an X design of the chicken coop, and when we're talking about it, I could drop it in as a 3D model, so we could both just click on it and rotate it, even within the 3D whiteboard as we sketched around it. So it's a very powerful ideation tool.
Yeah, it's a great sort of equivalent to standing in front of the physical whiteboard and,
Yeah.
and drawing. So, so it's a great way to kind of get your ideas down. It just kind of goes to show that there are so many other really valuable things just by starting to log into the platform. You get all these other applications, and you can decide where they fit for your workflow. But for us, we find great value in it. And the last thing I wanted to talk about that we use a lot is 3D Drive. So you may be familiar with Google Drive or the other Dropboxes and things of that. So 3D Drive is sort of, you can correlate it to that. It's a place to store any file-based data. So the platform, obviously, it's a database. You're saving your CAD files into a database, but 3D Drive is meant for files. So the way that, let me try and navigate and talk at the same time. The way that Chinloo and I work is I do all my best work in the morning when the sun rises, and Chinloo does all of her best work when the sun sets. So often,
I was born in Malaysia.
Yeah, she was born on the other side of the. So often she'll be working on editing videos while I'm ready to go to bed. And when I wake up in the morning, the videos are ready for me to review. So it actually becomes a really cool way to be efficient workers. So what you're looking at here, this little side panel that I've flown out, is 3D Drive. I'm going to maximize it here. And we can see, well, this is this week. So let me actually go to, what's number 49. So what we do is we create a folder for every week project that we're working on. And in that, there we go. In that folder, we will place the data, the assets. So for us, it's often videos and pictures, right? So Chinloo's editing videos at night, and I'm coming in and reviewing them in the morning. So when I know to come here and play the video and watch it. And then what I can do, I think it's the first comp. Let's go by name.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So when she released her very first composition for this episode, after I watched it, I can use the little information panel and I can add comments. And you can see I was very verbose this time. Like, hey, can we get rid of this? Can we do this? Like, I need to add some CAD footage. All this, like, I can add the notes. So even while she's still sleeping and I'm watching this with my breakfast, I can add all the notes, and then she knows exactly what to do next when she wakes up. So all this stuff is super useful. It's a great, we use the crap out of this, and it's just like we use it. Sorry for that expression, but we use it a lot, and it's a super valuable for how we actually.
Yeah, especially since last year, our first year, our mission was to put out a video every week, some sort of project every week. We were basically moving at a startup pace where we probably work 7 days a week, 36 hours a day kind of thing. And
yeah, so being able to share data that way was huge. It's a huge way to collaborate. And again, we did it amongst ourselves. There's ways to use 3D Drive to share with anyone. In fact, that's what we did at 3D Experience World. We shared the models of our puzzle boxes with anyone who had the link. They can go and look at that model. So there's great flexibility in that as well. But what we're doing again is sort of bigger than just us. We're not just doing this to have fun and making projects. What we want to do, of course, is inspire people to make things, show them what's possible, so that more people can feel what we feel when we make things. And so one way that we do that is we share, every time we build something, we share it with the broader community. So on Dassault's public swim site, it's swym.3ds.com. You can log in with your 3ds account, or if you don't have one, create a free one like my brother did with any email. And you can log in, and let's just go there live, because this is the community, and there's a ton of communities on the public swim. You could actually, not subscribe, you can go and favorite as many as you want. But here, Makers made in 3D, and then there's a dedicated support channel as well. But this is the community. In fact, here's So yeah, this is the post that I just made this morning about our latest video. But you can see that lots of people are in here, you know, showing what they're making. There's projects about, you know, there's a great maker in France that does great things. Iron Man suit. He's making a Spider-Man prop. Anyway, so there's a ton of great content in here. I know, again, Todd has made submissions here of his projects that he's working on. But we share everything that we do in here. And let's actually show you a little bit about this. If you want to navigate here, you can actually use a couple things. So we can filter based on types of entity content. Thank you. So posts versus pictures and things. You can use the tagger, and when you use the tagger, it will fly out this panel on the left-hand side. You can actually filter based on sort of the 6 W's, right? So you can say, oh, I know that the people I want to learn more about, I can scroll down here. You can scroll or you can search. So this is me, by the way, .. Sal. If you want to see all the things that I've posted, you can click on it. It will filter only to show the things that I've posted. The tags get added to the top here. If you want to clear them, you can clear them out. So it's a really great tool to help you find a kind of isolate things. There's also, if we search, we do our next. So you can start typing, you know, anything that when we post, we tag it with our next make. So you can click in here. You can see all the stuff that either Chinloo or I have added. Anyway, so there's a great way to go through and you consume the content. Go ahead.
You find that post that shows all of the.
There we go. So
projects.
yeah, so if you search for our next make and Chinloo, you'll see right there that post comes right up. This is the one we were talking about earlier. If I'll click on it so you can see, and we constantly update this. And this is just one post that we link to the other posts where we share files.
Yeah,
so
not every one of our posts have files associated.
There we go.
A majority of them.
So the chicken coop project, let's see, down at the very bottom, there's usually a zip file. Did we not do it here?
I think that was it. Oh, this might have been the.
Yeah, so sometimes it's a zip file and sometimes it's actually, you know.
I think this is a Solidworks file though.
Okay.
We may have to check on this.
Yes. So to the specific question, I think it was you, Jimmy, that was asking if we had the file shareable. May or may not be here. But the idea is at the end of a post, there's either a zip file or sometimes the model is embedded in the viewer and you can click download. So those are your 2 ways to get content. Let me actually just go to another post just to show here. A box fit for an airbender. So at the bottom of this one, there's the zip file. So those will be the 2 ways that you can grab our data. And again, we try and share every project we always share every project that makes sense. If the file doesn't make sense to be shared, we just don't.
Just a note though, we do often share things in STL and step form, especially for 3D printing, but we can't always share native files appropriately because just so you know, with makers, anything that's created in SolidWorks for makers cannot be brought into professional licensed SolidWorks. So it's just something that's watermarked and you won't be able to import it. That's one of the reasons why you see the formats that we share. It is meant to be more universal, so everyone can access
I do
it.
tend to still put the native files in there, but because I know that it's, you know, how many people can actually benefit from it is limited. If you don't have makers, I will always include a step and or an STL, just so you have all kinds of flexibility. Yep, that's a great point there, Chinloo. So yeah, so we share all of our data in Made in 3D. And then
lastly, so we started this series called Partners in Making. There are 2 episodes out there already. We still have quite a few in the wings, and these are 3 examples. We've partnered with other CAD experts, other CAD novices. They don't necessarily have to know how to model or even make anything, but we love inspiring other people and love to see what they would what they want to make. So if you get a chance to check out our channel, if you like what you see, definitely subscribe so that you can see these new projects coming up. Like, for example, Andy is definitely a CAD genius. So we're going to learn a lot about how he came up with the design that you see there for his cabinet. What else did we forget? I think.
Well, I would put a plug. It may be challenging. You know, we're trying to do a bunch of partnerships throughout the year with a variety of people, and certainly it's convenient if they live in Massachusetts with next to us. However, we're already scheming for figuring out how to do a project with a friend in Germany and some friends in the UK. And so, if you are on this call and you're like, oh, halfway around the world, let's figure this out. If you have projects that you want to, you know, consider collaborating on, reach out to us. For sure, we'd happily, and even if it's a small piece that we can play in the process to help you build, whether it's the design piece, the fabrication, or even just a a brainstorm, we're happy to do that. So yeah, this is our sort of last slide. That's a QR code that will get you to our bio site, which has links to all of these platforms. So wherever you prefer to hang out.
It also has a 20% off discount link. I'm not 100% positive that it works for all regions.
Oh, it's got it.
I'm assuming
It's
it
got it.
does. But if you don't win your free license of makers and you're still interested in it and you don't want to pay full price, go to this site. We do have a 20% off.
Full price, by the way, at least in US dollars, it's $49 for a year.
So I don't know what
so
that is.
yeah, so I'm sure it's an equivalent in other
Yeah,
currencies.
you check it out.
But
yeah, so going to that site, you'll have the information. If you want to reach out to us, we're both on LinkedIn. And you could absolutely reach out or even DM us directly on any of these channels. We do check them quite a bit. We'll open it up to questions if anyone has them.